I had moved to San Francisco in 2009, towards the end. Got into a homeless shelter program that turned into a transitional living program. You kind of like, it basically helps you get on your feet so you can get a job and you start saving some of your money so you can take care of yourself. And there's a lot of kids that were in this program, and the program itself, all the homeless shelter stuff, like the feeding and giving you your space to sleep, was paid for by the city. So like San Francisco is its own county, so I'm San Francisco County, and there's also a clinic or shelter, not shelter, sorry. There's a clinic by the Castro that would prescribe people hormones, and everyone knew about it. And if you were homeless, you almost basically guaranteed to, I don't think you could get rejected for health care in San Francisco. You're homeless, you get health care, everything's covered. And so then, it's easy coverage for this clinic. And so a lot of the kids who were in the shelter program, a large percentage of them were trans-identified and getting hormone therapy from this clinic.
And that was all taxpayer funded?
That was all taxpayer funded, yeah.
And did the surgery end up being, the bottom surgery, did that end up being taxpayer funded?
Not mine.
Okay.
Mine I saved for myself.
Got it. Because
I was so committed to that higher quality version that Thailand was the place to go for that.
Were they funding?
The psychiatrist who approved was being paid for by the insurance I was on.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Was anybody else in the shelter system having their surgeries subsidized by taxpayer dollars? Or was it just the HRT?
This must have been 2010, 2011 at the latest. And at that point, my understanding was no, they wouldn't pay for bottom surgery. But I remember a buzz around that time where they were just about to start, because I know that's happened. So.
I know you already mentioned some of it, but how you found the shelter, you got into the shelter, what were the conditions like in the shelter? I know we were DMing specifically about like the ease at which you could basically switch your dorming or your rooming situation to the opposite sex.
They had bunk beds, a male and female ward, but it was basically identity based, so it wasn't biologically based. And so if you say you're transgender, you're the sex you get to sleep on the side you say you are. And they didn't, it's pretty wild to think about now. At the time, I was just kind of in a desperate situation, But I stayed in the female rooms, and so did every other trans person who was male to female. And it's, pretty wild.
And there was no pushback on that from the shelter. It was just
no. It was like a policy thing. It was baked in. There wasn't like, hey, I'm this person who comes in, and I'm like, this is how I feel, so you have to accommodate me, and then being like, ooh, what do we do? It wasn't like that. It was just like, oh, this person's trans. Okay, they go to this spot because there were a bunch of other people who were trans identified there already.
How do your procedures, like in totality, the hormone replacement, the bottom surgery, and anything else you might have gotten, how does that kind of affect you today?
So my transition process has permanently changed my body and how it currently affects me. One is, well, I can't ever have children because I no longer produce sperm because I don't have testicles because of the surgery. In addition to that, it changes how I go to the bathroom. The surgery itself is pretty gnarly. It's genital mutilation, essentially. And so it affects my intimate life, of course. I'm bisexual, so if I were to date a man, like, what kind of guy is going to want to date a guy without a penis? Like, that's huge. And what kind of girl is going to want to date a guy without a penis, I'm lucky enough that I've had a partner for a very long time and who has been with me through a lot of this. I actually met her just prior to flying to Thailand for that surgery, so she's been with me through all the physical process. But at this point, let's see, I think you asked a little bit earlier about kind of what some of the processes I've done. And another one of the things is the way the body grows, the body is kind of this combination and composition of different systems that are working and firing in unison to keep the body alive. And these different systems, they depend on each other. They expect each other to be there. And so stopping testosterone at 16, although it wasn't like a puberty blocker like Lupron, when you suppress the testosterone, the effects that are supposed to happen on your body, you're supposed to masculinize your body. It's part of the growth process. And we don't have long-term data about all of the systems that are impacted by stunting somebody's puberty, right? These things aren't reversible because you can't undo a process. These things don't, Lupron, puberty blockers, they don't allow you to pause because you don't pause biology. Because biology is just, it's replicating, it's computing, it's just happening. So when your body starts to trigger some kind of puberty, right? Even when you block puberty at Tanner stage 2 completely, it's not like people stay the size of a child, they still grow in height. So you have parts of the body that are growing and maturing with an entire part that's no longer there, or at least stunted significantly. And so I don't know what all of the long-term effects are. Like, I struggle a lot with ADHD. That has a lot to do with executive function. That has a lot to do with the prefrontal cortex of the brain. Those things have a lot to do with inhibiting, inhibiting mood or mood regulation. Like these, these things that are supposed to develop fully. Like your brain doesn't fully develop till you're 25, and so on cross-sex hormones for like 9 years up to that point. I don't know how much of me has truly been stunted. And it's terrifying to think that, what if I already struggled a lot with mood regulation and impulse control, and then I just made it worse by never allowing my body to mature, And at the same time, it's hard because I don't want to think that happened, because I also don't want to get into a fixed mindset where now I'm like, well, now I can never learn, So I feel like I have legitimate caution to think that in some sense I might be disfigured, but at the same time must act as though it doesn't matter, and I must succeed anyway, because there's nothing else to do but to push forward, especially after some set of crazy decisions that I've made.